There have been many wars in Iraq. What is now commonly referred to as the war in Iraq actually refers to two main conflicts. The first is the Iran-Iraq War, a brutal and devastating 8-year conflict fought between two revolutionary regimes, which ended up claiming hundreds of thousands of lives. The second is the Iraq War, which began in 2003 with the invasion of Iraq by a US-led coalition. The stated goals of the war were to remove Saddam Hussein from power and to find and destroy any weapons of mass destruction that he might have been hiding and to prevent him from making or using them. The other stated goal was to find and destroy any links that Saddam Hussein might have had to the terrorist group Al-Qaeda. No such weapons were ever found, and no link to Al-Qaeda was ever established. But the war went on for 8 years, ending in 2011. In between those two wars, there was also the Persian Gulf War, which began in 1990 when Iraq invaded and quickly overwhelmed the small nation of Kuwait. The response was swift and decisive. A US-led coalition built up a massive force of more than 2 million troops, and the air war began on January 16, 1991. Within 3 weeks, the coalition was able to achieve air superiority and destroy most of the Iraqi Air Force and many of their surface-to-air missile sites. On February 24th, ground forces began their advance into Kuwait. Within 100 hours, the entire Iraqi army in Kuwait was either destroyed or in full retreat. By March, Kuwait was declared liberated. But even as the fighting ended, the underlying causes of the conflict remained. And so a low-level insurgency continued throughout the 1990s. When the US decided to invade Iraq in 2003, it did so with the expectation that the war would be over quickly. The US intelligence agencies had assured the Bush administration that resistance to the coming invasion would be minimal. What the Bush administration did not expect was the level of support that the Iraqi people would give to the insurgency once it began. For 8 years, the US military struggled against a determined enemy who knew the terrain and had the support of the local population. It was a war of attrition that the US was not prepared for. The result was a stalemate. By 2011, the US had spent over $2 trillion and thousands of lives to achieve nothing. They had come to the conclusion that the only way to end the war was to leave. And so in December of that year, the US withdrew its troops from Iraq. But the story doesn't end there. In the power vacuum that followed, a new and even more dangerous threat emerged. The Islamic State of Iraq and Syria, also known as ISIS, seized large parts of northern and western Iraq and committed atrocities against the Iraqi people. Over the past decade, the Iraqi security forces have been able to push ISIS out of most of the territory it once held. But the war in Iraq rages on. To this day, there are still pockets of ISIS fighters in the country who launch attacks against the government and its people. And that is the very quick history of the war in Iraq. If you want to learn more about a specific conflict or time period, just search for it here.